What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Scratch Agency podcast, hosted by Scratch Agents for Scratch Agents. This episode is brought to you by Virtual Intelligence, your premier partner for client-facing and back-office virtual employees. My name is Stephen Turnbull, founder of T5 Insurance Services in Clinton, New York, and I'm joined by my co-host today, the one and only, you already know, hold your applause, Mr. Sean Fitzgerald, founder of Sound Harbor Insurance in Long Island, New York. Mr. Fitzgerald, how we doing?
I'm doing well, man. I just finished a nice big lunch. I'm full, I'm feeling fierce, and I'm ready to talk to Nikhil about Cara, specifically because, well, I should say selfishly, because I just launched an AI receptionist through that I have through Ring Central, and I just went with Ring Central because that's just the software I have already. But I would love to talk to you more about that, learn about Cara, and just learn how we can help Scratch Agents today. So I'm pumped to get this going.
We are on a AI season in the show, I guess we should officially call it, because the last 4 or 6 episodes or so has been around that. But look, that's what's going on. And we talked to Nikhil a little before we started recording about what we want to talk about. And we certainly want to learn about Cara and all the great things that I'm sure it offers to our independent agencies. But more importantly, too, like, what should we be looking out for, right? And so that's the conversation. So Nikhil, welcome to the Scratch Agency podcast. We first off really appreciate you taking the time and joining us today. How are you?
Yeah, it's my pleasure, really. Thank you, Stephen and Sean, for having me. I'm doing great. You know, weather is getting a lot better here in San Francisco, so looking forward to the summer season.
Awesome. Listen, we just came off of like 3 weeks of rain here in central New York, so we got today's 85 and sunny. I don't even know why I'm working, but
feels like a blessing.
Yeah, right. So we talked a little bit about before we started recording, but let's talk about just your background and kind of we'll lead up to what got you to today in Cara and what that is today. But tell us your background in the insurance space, and then we'll work our way up.
Sure. Yeah, my name is Nikhil. I'm one of the co-founders working on Cara. I've been with the company for about 4 years now, since the beginning. And prior to focusing on our AI software services, we were a digital insurance brokerage, starting from the ground, selling personal insurance, commercial insurance in certain niches, but, broadening as we grew. And, part of launching Cara and offering Cara to other agencies was born out of our own need to become more efficient and really leverage the technologies that have just become available in the last few years to deliver better outcomes for our clients and manage the kind of workload that we were seeing on our team. So that's really the motivation for Cara. That's where Cara came from a real agency that had real needs. Prior to that, I have a longer background in technology before I joined insurance. So, being able to see both worlds and bridge those gaps has been quite a fun challenge for me.
Yeah, sure. That's got to be interesting, because the insurance space, I definitely don't need to tell you, is old school in some of the practices, and and then you have this tech background as well, and you're probably, both minds are probably fighting with each other all day long, I would imagine, because I feel like the insurance world can sometimes feel like we're so far behind, but that's why we have these conversations. So So talk to us about Cara itself. I know this conversation that we're having today came out of the episode that we did with Elise Umana, and she recommended you guys during the episode, and Sean was like, oh, that sounds cool. Like, let's talk about that. But talk about the product itself, and then maybe we can dive into more like AI specific stuff for agents listening.
Sure. So Cara is an AI CSR really designed for modern agencies to kind of automate some of the servicing and sales tasks that you have going on that you don't really need a licensed producer or a licensed agent to do, but really take up a large chunk of time. So Cara is really like a combination of different modules that work together. We've got the communications module, so Cara can take phone calls for your customers, and she can transcribe and transfer if needed, or she can handle those tasks on her own. You can work with Cara in your email inbox. So if a customer comes in via email and says, hey, I need a COI, you can CC Cara and be like, hey, can you get this customer set up with a COI? There's also a web interface, so you can interact with Cara's intelligence and capabilities like you would with ChatGPT, but she's a lot more suited for insurance-specific tasks. You can have her generate quote proposals, compare coverages, review contracts, tasks like that.
That's really cool. I'll put my agency in the hot seat here too, because I'm curious to pick your brain on it. The AI receptionist specifically, because there's a lot there, and all that sounds really cool. I haven't really heard it spun like that before, like your AI CSR. I think that's a really cool way to look at it. From the AI receptionist standpoint, behind the scenes, and this is kind of what I've wondered, I tried to look into, but I couldn't find much about it. whether it's Cara or another product, is like behind the scenes, what and I won't go deep into the weeds here, but like what LLM is Cara using? Is it like a mix of Claude and GPT, or is it just one or the other? And does
Yeah.
it like learn as it goes? Like the more calls it takes, it learns from that experience and gets better? Or does it just go based off the knowledge base? Like these are just a couple of things I would love
Yeah,
to dive into.
Yeah, so when it comes to Cara specifically, and I guess, more generally like voice agents,
Yeah.
there's many different technologies that kind of have to intersect to make it function.
Mhm.
So there's the reasoning and intelligence piece for which you could use like a Claude or an GPT 4003 mini kind of model. But there's also like the speech to text and text to speech aspects of it. We've kind of gone through the last decade of promises around like voice AI technology. And I think just now we're kind of exiting that uncanny valley where previously you had like these voice AIs that like didn't quite sound human. They were like a little bit robotic, couldn't really handle much, so they weren't very useful. We're just exiting that because aside from advancements in large language models, there's also been advancements in voice and voice to text and text to voice models. So really to make Cara function is a combination of multiple different types of models and technologies that make one seamless product. And when it comes to learning, Cara is always learning. I can't speak for other voice AI products
Yeah.
like RingCentral AI add-on or any other AI products out there. But Cara is learning. She has the experience of about a 10-year CSR in insurance. So she knows how to navigate conversations. If she runs into something that she doesn't necessarily know about, she'll ask follow-up questions. So she kind of reasons like a person would without being scripted and having that general insurance background.
Is that CSR experience based off personal lines, commercial, both?
Both. So
Both. Uh-huh.
Cara has personal lines. She can do like homeowners, auto, rental. She can also do commercial lines, general liability, workers' comp, some of the more niche lines as well, such as like contractors and flood insurance.
Yeah. So what I'll tell you from what I know from Ring Central, and this is kudos, this is props for Cara, is where I think the two biggest differences that I'm just understanding from you so far is like with Ring Central, it's not a trained, licensed customer service. So you have to go into that knowledge base and you have to add your SOPs and all the knowledge that you have, FAQs and all that stuff. Whereas it's already built into yours, which I think is really cool, and it just helps make the process of implementing it into someone's agency a lot easier.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I definitely like. And then the other aspect is the learning piece. Now, it's possible the person at Ring Central Support I spoke to didn't give me the right info, but when I did ask them about like, does it learn as it goes, they actually told me it didn't because it's only going based off of the knowledge base and FAQs that you upload to their portal.
Right.
So if Cara learns from previous conversations that your agency specifically has, which is much different than in every other agency, that's a pretty
Yeah.
big value add too. So I think that's cool, and that's why I really wanted to touch on that aspect.
Yeah, and that's why we call Cara an AI CSR, right? Not like an AI voice or chatbot. It's because she's kind of meant to be integrated into your agency, and as she like operates, as you work with her, you ask her to generate COIs, you ask her to write emails, and you give her feedback and say, actually, I kind of want it like this, or can you like match this tone? She'll remember that for the next time. She'll be like, okay, got it. This is how you want me to write emails. Cara also has a knowledge base. So if you dump all of your agency's information into it, you'll kind of infuse your own flavor into her outputs and her work.
Gotcha. And and again, I'm just going based off of my experience with Ring Central, but how's the like fluidity of the conversation? Like I've noticed sometimes with the receptionist is like, and I've listened, my agency doesn't get a gigantic volume of call. We get 10, 15 a day. And there are some hiccups, I would say less than 5% of the calls, there's hiccups. But when there is a hiccup, it's like a silly thing. It's like someone, it starts with a prompt. It'll basically say something like, hey, is, your call related to customer service? Is it related to sales or claims? And usually where it gets a little confused is somebody just throws out like a curveball,
Yeah.
And then it doesn't respond the right way and it makes it sound kind of,
Yeah.
not fluid, so to speak. Or it'll ask the person will just jump in and be like, hey, I just want to speak to Sean. And then it'll be like, oh, sorry, we can't find Sean in the database. I'm like, I'm the owner of the agency. How could you not find me in the database? So I'm just
Yeah.
curious, are you guys finding like some kinks in the process, or has it been like a really
Yeah.
smooth process so far?
Cara is definitely a product that has improved a lot
Yeah.
since we've launched it. And, by no means is it perfect. Every agency that we work with, they'll request something slightly different, and
Mhm.
we'll work with them to make it happen. So there is a little bit of like, okay, like how exactly do you want Cara to operate? Do you want her to say, hi, my name is Cara, I'm an AI agent? Do you want her to introduce your agency? Do you want her to support specific types of routing? So once we get all that information from the agency, then we go and test Cara and we say, okay, how is she going to work with this specific agency's requirements? So there is a bit of a QA process on our side when we work with the customer to make sure that she's working for those specific use cases. But yeah, she's not 100% perfect. I would say that most callers can't tell at all whether she's AI or not.
Oh,
Some
wow.
callers can, and a very, very small minority will sometimes try to give her a hard time, but she's really good at steering customers back to professional boundaries and
Yeah.
keeping them on top.
I'm blown away. I mean, we've taken definitely over 100 calls so far, and so far I've only had one person complain, and it was a contractor in New York. Go figure. Kind of harsh personalities here in New York sometimes, and
Whoa. Just downstate. Let's clarify that.
yeah, you're right, just downstate.
Let's clarify
Yeah,
that.
you're right. I'll give you that. And it's just that one person that kind of just went off the rails. Like when I think of an AI receptionist, I think of it as a more enhanced version of a phone tree. You know what I mean? Like they're just there to connect you to the right person and maybe give you a little additional information in case you ask.
Yeah, Cara, I will say, is like a little bit more capable than a phone tree. So I'll give you an example. We had a customer call in, and this is when we were running Cara for our own agency.
Yeah.
We had a customer call in, and Cara had a 25-minute phone call conversation with this customer. And the first 5 minutes of it were, insurance related. The remaining 20 was the customer just wanting to vent and talk about personal life circumstances. And she was doing a good job of just being like, okay, yeah, I understand, that's frustrating. Really hope that it works out for you. Please let me know if there's anything that our agency can do to help, without making explicit promises or saying something that you wouldn't really want her to say.
Yeah.
And, from my perspective, number one, obviously that customer felt comfortable enough talking to the AI in this way. And number two, that's 25 minutes of your time as an agent returned to you, or something that Cara has adequately handled for the customer and has left a positive feeling for them regarding your agency.
Yeah. And where I think the big piece is too is even if you have so we have a few people at the office, like even if the phone were to ring from Marsha, let's say, who's my personal lines manager, if she were to pick up and then the call was really for Ron in commercial lines, she has to she just got interrupted at work, then she'd have to, put that on hold, transfer it to Ron. And it does cause a little friction, not just on the client's end, but on our licensed person's end who we're paying a lot of money for. So yeah, just from that aspect, I think it is pretty big. And then can we just dive into to help scratch agents? Like selfishly, the COI piece interests me the most from the service side of things because we do about half of our business is commercial lines. Before I dive into that, is there any other service piece that you see newer agents using a lot more often than the COIs that you'd like to discuss?
Yeah, I mean, we see that a lot of our newer agencies, they rely on Cara to really do a lot of double checking and take initial passes over large documents. So, for example, if you're like 1 year into your agency, you've got a lot of renewals coming up, you can ask Cara to, hey, take a look at this renewal quote I got for this business compared to their original policy or their last year's policy, and kind of tell me what the differences are. What's explaining the difference in the premium? Are there different locations covered? Are there certain endorsements or exclusions? And you can just upload those documents to Cara, and she'll, spend a couple minutes reading it and give you this presentation of like, okay, here are the key differences. Here's what to explain to the client. Here's what to double check. Here are potential E&O concerns. Here's maybe what something got missed in the renewal application versus the original application. So that's another use case that our clients, newer clients, find very useful.
All right, Nikhil, don't kill me here. I'm just asking a question. What is the difference between like me having a paid version of ChatGPT and like dropping in the new and the renewal and doing the same thing, so to speak? Is there like What's the difference between doing that with ChatGPT and Cara?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And I think it really boils down to the fact that Cara is built by agents for agents. So Cara is insurance specific,
Okay.
whereas ChatGPT is domain agnostic. So ChatGPT will give you like 60 to 70% on anything, right? Like whether you're an event planner or an insurance agent, it'll kind of like do its best for anything you give at it. Cara really excels at insurance specific tasks. So if you want to upload 500 pages of insurance documents and those endorsements are out of order and the declarations page is handwritten or scanned or faxed to you, and you've got like 7 quotes from 4 different carriers that comprise one option for coverage, Cara knows how to handle that. And that's something that you might find difficulty or have to do a lot of back and forth or multiple conversations with ChatGPT to really get anything useful out of it.
Gotcha. So,
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that, Sean. I want Nicole, if you could expand on just the insurance knowledge differentiator here with the tool, because I like how you said it's built by agents for agents. Like, what are some other examples of what's different inside of the tool that it can help with the day-to-day that's very specific to insurance agencies?
Yeah, I think the way to think about Cara is Cara lives and breathes inside your workflows, whereas ChatGPT is something that, it's really an external tool. You use it in a one-off way. Maybe you have a couple of collaborators if you're using their Teams feature. But the way Cara works is she's embedded in your inbox, right? You can email her. She's connected with your customer information if you have one of our agency management system integrations. The phone piece of it works with the ticketing system, which works with the COI generation, and then you get a follow-up email that says like, "Hey, I handled this task for you." So Cara is really meant to integrate into your workflows and be kind of like an AI coworker, which is not at all what ChatGPT is trying to position itself to be.
Mm.
gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. All right. So besides the policy comparison, I got to dive into the COIs. I can't not have you on and not talk about COIs. So
Of course.
right now, and I'm just explaining to you my setup. So this way, hopefully you can be like, hey, this is how you can do it better. We have somebody requests a certificate of insurance. They email our service email. And Ron is our commercial line service guy. He grabs it out of the inbox, goes into the agency management system, AMS 360. Hope you're integrated. And then, well, probably not because Vertifor's tough. And he'll go into AMS and type up the COI and then email to the client, save a copy of the COI in AMS and all that fun stuff. So how could Cara make that process more efficient?
Yeah, like I mentioned, Cara sits in your workflows. So what you could do with Cara is, let's say a customer emails in and say, "Hey, I need a certificate of insurance." You can forward that email to Cara and say, "Hey, Cara, can you get this customer set up with the COI?" If you've got the policy information already in Cara, then she'll match the customer to the policy documents, policy information. Otherwise,
Sorry. Yeah. I had to stop you there because what do you mean policy info in Cara? Like because it's integrated, it would be in there?
So Cara has select integrations with
Gotcha.
certain agency management systems,
Okay.
but you can also drag and drop. You can dump all of the policy documents that you have in your agency into Cara, and she'll organize and store them by account, by line of business, coverage, carrier, and really just have all that information at her disposal.
Okay.
So you could email Cara, "Hey, this customer needs a COI." Maybe the customer's attached a list of requirements in the body of the email or a PDF or something. She'll read that. And then she'll get to work. She'll be like, "All right, this is the customer. These are the requirements. These are the policies that I have on file for them. Let me try to put the certificate together." And then she'll also highlight anything that may be missing or misaligned between the customer's request and what's actually available.
Yeah, that's big.
Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I can't get off the COI
I can
subject.
I can see the steam just going.
The COI subject's got me.
I'll just wait with my notepad.
Yes,
Go ahead.
All right, cool. One last thing on the COIs. So, like in New York specifically, we deal with a lot of contractors. So it is very common for contractors to like email me, "Hey, we need this certificate of insurance," and it's got to have all that wording, And there are a lot of times where 3 or 4 of the things on the long list of stuff they send us is not included on the policy; it's excluded. So you're saying Cara would be able to tell that the specific thing being requested on the COI isn't on the policy, and it'll kind of flag it?
Exactly. So because she has access to the entire policy document, that's like 100, 200 pages
Yeah.
that, an agent would normally have to sift through and be like, okay, does this actually have this wording? Does it have this coverage or endorsement?
Yeah.
She's going to just do that for you and she'll flag it to you. And ultimately, like, she's there to assist your team members. So if you tell her like, hey, it's okay if they don't have it, I need the certificate anyway, or for whatever the situation may be, ultimately you have the final say. And you can overwrite anything that Cara says. You can edit any of the documents that she produces and say like, okay, this is technically correct, but practically this is how we would want to send it to our customers. You can do all of that after Cara's taken that first 90% pass.
Very cool. So if it's not integrated, so if you don't have the integration with the management system, then you'd have to manually take the policies and upload them into Cara.
Yep.
Okay.
If you have them available, you can also just forward them in the same email that you sent to Cara and say like, hey, they need a certificate, drag and drop, here's the policy, go and create the certificate for me.
So is Cara, what are some of the integrations? My mind is going like crazy over here. I've been saving up all my notes every time Sean's interrupting me, which is usually the other way around. Nicole, if you've ever watched some of the other episodes. All right, Steven, get back to it. Okay, integrations. What are some of the management systems that you integrate with?
So today we primarily integrate with Applied Epic and Hawksoft. We are working, as you mentioned, with AMS 360 to get an integration live there, as well as Easy Links. Hopefully, we'll see those come out in the next couple of months. On the CRM side, we have HubSpot, and if you are using Salesforce, then we will do a custom integration with your Salesforce environment as well. We're working on some of the other providers as well, but it really just depends on what our customers need and where their data lives.
Yeah.
Cara, as I mentioned, she works within your workflow, so we don't want you to have to come to us and have to replicate all your data and update it into systems. We want Cara to work with your existing data.
Okay, so just a side note: if you call AMS and just say Sean, they should just put the integration right through. This should be a all right. So I've got Hawksoft. So let's walk through this. So when I have Cara and Hawksoft is integrated, so the Cara can see all the data, see the policies, all that stuff that's in Hawksoft, right? So I have a COI request, like you were just walking through with Sean. I email Cara, hey, take care of this COI request. So it'll go into Hawksoft and create the COI inside of Hawksoft and then bring it back to me.
So with Hawksoft, we are limited by what their APIs allow us to do. So what we can do is we can read and see all of the accounts and policies that you have in Hawksoft, and we can write back notes and activities. So if Cara creates a certificate, she can write to Hawksoft and say, hey, I created a certificate for this customer based on this information. Here's what I created. And then unfortunately, it would be up to somebody to upload that certificate to Hawksoft. But that's something that we're coming out with a solution for in the next 3 to 4 months.
Gotcha. So here's just pivoting this because we'll just keep going for hours on this if we try to use our own examples. Talk to us about like the setup. Like someone comes on with Cara. It's a separate tool. It sounds like that you're integrating it, like you said, into your workflow. So you can integrate it into your Outlook or G Suite or whatever it is, I assume, integrate into your management system if that's an option, like we just went over. But how is the setup? Because one thing we talk about, especially on our podcast with the Scratch agency, is like you can have 100 agencies and there's 100 different processes. There's 100 different ways that we write up insurance binders. There's 100 different ways we do whatever. Talk to us about the setup process for each agency to go around their processes.
Sure. So relative to other products, I would say that the setup process starts quick, but depending on how deep you want to go, we expose kind of all those controls and customizations to you. So out of the box, Cara does a pretty good job of doing insurance-specific workflows. So many small and new agencies probably won't need to do too much to have Cara work for their workflows. If you have specific, let's say you work with specific carriers, you write business in specific ways, where you've learned over the first couple of years that like these carriers tend to write this and these carriers tend to require this. Cara has a knowledge base, so you can just data dump, drag and drop, or connect your Google Drive, whatever, to Cara and just give her that information to index. And anytime you ask her a question or anytime you work with her, she's automatically referencing the relevant information for your agency. So that's an aspect of the setup that you can do over time whenever it requires, is connect your data to Cara. When it comes to customers and accounts, like I mentioned, we have a couple of integrations with CRMs and AMSs. you can just enter your credentials or do an open authorization connection with your system and Cara, and she'll start to pull that data. But otherwise, we work individually with agencies. So if there's something specific you need, like, oh, we need her to handle this very niche type of insurance, or we want her to ask these types of questions on the phone, we don't force our agencies to configure that themselves. We work with our agencies to understand the requirements, and then we go and make sure that Cara works for those requirements.
Super cool. John, I was going to pivot on something. Do you have something else on that?
No, you go.
So Nikhil, I wanted to pick your brain and kind of remove Cara from the conversation for now with your unique background of insurance and tech. And I just kind of thought of this as I was sitting here. I'm going to start referring to this as AI overload.
Mm-hmm.
So every day, this guy right here on the screen is calling me and be like, look at this AI tool that just came out. Hey, we got to do this chat. And that's, I mean, independent agents all over the country, that's what's going on, because there's all these different tools that are coming out. I'm just curious your thoughts, like what would you say to a scratch agent when they're looking at a tool and like, is this going to work? How is this going to work? And all of that. Like, what advice from your primarily tech space, but still having the insurance knowledge, would you give to agencies that are looking at implementing these things in their agency?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for me, like I mentioned, I have a long background in technology. So when we say AI today, in the last 2 to 3 years, AI has really taken up the common vernacular, but it's really been technology that's been around for 50 years, and it's gone through many evolutions in the last 50 years. So I would say my biggest advice to agency owners is start with your needs, right? Like, what problems and bottlenecks are you facing? It's okay to use these tools as inspiration, like, oh, this new tool came out, maybe it could help me solve this problem. But the customers that have the greatest success are the ones that have clear objectives and criteria for what problem a tool could solve. So if you know what problems that you have to solve, you know that you spend a lot of time on servicing, you spend a lot of time on copying information from one system to another system, now you have a rubric to evaluate any new tool that comes your way and quickly decide, hey, is this something that I should consider, or is this something that I shouldn't consider? Because as quickly as AI has advanced in the last couple of years, this isn't the last wave of AI. Like, LLMs aren't the last technology. Any LLM-based tool that you use, who knows if it's going to be obsolete in 5 years. So I wouldn't index too heavily on any particular tool. I'd focus on your problems and your workflows.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, before AI was even a conversation in our space, Sean, I mean, we talk about, like, is that tool you're going to bring on solving a problem? And I guess I go back and forth with it in my mind, because it's like with the AI, like you said, it's just moving so fast, and there's so many cool, like with the COI conversation, like we talked about that a year ago, we would have been mind blown, but today it's like, oh, well, that makes sense because of where we're at. It's almost like a juggle of like, do I need this now versus how much more productive will this make me to be able to scale and grow my agency, right? And so, yeah, I appreciate that answer, because I just think it's crazy to just keep up with everything that's going on. It's moving so fast.
Yeah, and like I said, if you're evaluating any particular tool, like whether you're building something yourself or you're evaluating a vendor, large language models are, I would say, like the newest addition to the tool set of AI and machine learning, but it's not going to be the last one. So I would not over-index on LLMs to solve all the problems. Or if you're building your own GPTs, I guess be aware that better things might be coming soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Nikhil, just to make sure I got this right, top 3 things Cara can help with: receptionist, COIs, and the policy comparisons. Anything else you think you need to add to that list that'd be helpful for scratch agents?
Yeah, I guess I would kind of reframe Cara, like the policy comparison and the COIs. There are specific functionalities as part of like a broader capability set.
Okay.
Like any kind of insurance specific task you need Cara to do. For example, let's say you need her to help you place a particular business among a set of carriers that you have. Cara can help you do that too. Just upload the rating guidelines, the risk appetite guidelines, and she'll basically reason through, okay, this is the application, this is the business. Let me go search the web. Let me check out their website, the kind of products they sell. And then, okay, let me check the carrier appetite guidelines, put together an analysis and say, like, these are the 3 places I'd recommend, and here are the requirements for placing the business.
Okay.
Here. So I would say that her capabilities are a lot broader than just those specific examples, but those are key use cases that she can support.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because since ChatGPT came out, that is one thing I've been trying to just figure out and work, because in our area for personal lines specifically, we're in like a regional, we're in like a coastal area. So there's a lot of like carriers you really haven't heard of before. But for homeowners, we actually have a large selection of different carriers, and every single carrier has completely different guidelines. You know, the roof can't be older than 20, one's the building can't be older than 1910, one's it can't have two illegal kids, whatever the case is. So you're saying, hypothetically, I can upload all of the underwriting guidelines from each specific, let's just use homes for an example, all the home insurance carriers guidelines. And then if I'm using a company like Risk Advisor, and now I have the risk profile, which asks all the questions about the house, and I drag and drop that into this assistant, it would tell me, hey, based off this risk profile, Sutton National is going to be your best bet because it's built in this age, blah, 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 blah.
That's exactly what it'll do. It'll read and index the appetite guidelines, and then anytime you ask it, like, hey, where should I place this risk, or which carriers are appropriate for this, given this information, she's going to go ahead and do that. Like I mentioned, it's because she has that insurance-specific foundation to build on. If you ask ChatGPT to do it, you may get good results, you may not get good results. It's going to be on you to check.
Could you hypothetically say, like, there are cases, not with, whatever. Yeah, there are cases with me where sometimes the prices are about the same, but one carrier we like to work with a lot more. Maybe they pay us a higher commission, I'm just saying, and we'd rather place them with that other carrier. Is there a way to like set that up in the system?
Yeah, you can, in addition to the carrier guidelines, you can also upload any internal knowledge or documentation for Cara. Like, hey, like if you need to break a tie between these two carriers, and this is how we prefer it, or here's even better would be, here's a sample of how we would reason through this application. And if you write that document one time, Cara's going to use that and remember, like, okay, this is the process that this agency follows for placing business. This is what they prefer. This is what they look at. These are the nuances that are maybe not explicit in the carrier rating guidelines, but anything that you upload to her, she has access to then use in her analysis.
Gotcha. That's awesome. I think that could be super helpful. What do you think about that, Steven?
I'm actually just thinking the over under of how many times you're gonna call me and say, wonder if we could do this. We could do it this way. We could.
And that's the great thing about Cara too. She has this feature called custom presets, where if there's any specific task you want her to do that she doesn't have a button for out of the box, and you do very, very often, you could just create that in Cara and say, like, hey, this is how we write homeowners insurance, or this is how we generate quote proposals. You save that as a setting in Cara, and then anytime you need to do that, you can come back, click a button, and she'll apply her regular reasoning on top of whatever you've configured in that workflow. And she's very extensible that way.
What would it be fair to say that you could almost set her up too as like an executive assistant for things like that? That thought just came from, you said that task that might not be in the, like, sending an email back to somebody, sending somebody a calendar link, stuff like that. It like expand a little more on, like you said, you just send her an email. So would you just set up like a Cara at T5 Insurance type email so that it's like that's where everything's going, and then point it in the back end to the software? How does that work?
Yeah, so Cara, there's a dedicated email for Cara, and when you sign up as a customer, you get access to that email, and she'll only respond, or she'll respond with agency-specific information based on the inbound email address. So, if Sean, you're sending an email to Cara from Sound Harbor, then she's going to know, okay, I need to operate in Sean's context. If Steven, you send an email to Cara, you're a customer, she'll operate in your context. So yeah, you can set up an email. You can send an email to Cara, and you can combine multiple features like the email AI piece with the custom presets piece with the knowledge base piece, and all of these kind of work together. So you can email her and say, hey, this customer is looking for a quote. Where can I place this? She'll go and use the knowledge base. She'll use her insurance foundational model. She'll use her reasoning and any custom presets that you might have created, and then she'll get back to you in your inbox and say, based on the information, this is what I would do.
Wow,
I love it.
Well, That's incredible. Nikhil, thank you very much for being here. Anything else that you want to just touch on that we should know about, or listeners should know about, of what you guys have coming maybe down the pipe, or some things to be aware of?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot always going on with Cara. Like we're constantly adding new features. But I would say like relevant to Scratch agencies, I would say like any tool that you pick, really just make sure that it's solving a problem. If you're clear about the problems that you have and the efficiencies you want to drive, that's how you're going to have success with whether it's Cara or whether it's any other tool. And we're always happy to work with our customers and figure out what the best solution for them is, whether that's Cara or not. But really, like in this age of a new AI tool coming out every other day and a new technology, and this model is now better than that model. Like it's easy to get swept up in the noise and the
Mhm.
frenzy of it. Just
Yeah,
stay focused on your business objectives.
awesome. Anything before we wrap up, Sean?
Nope, that's it.
Awesome. Well, Nikhil, thank you again for being here. We appreciate you taking the time, bro.
Yep.
Super good conversation. A lot of
It's
great
it's my
stuff.
pleasure.
Make
Thank
sure
you
to
very
check
much.
them out over at Cara. Everybody, that's another episode of the Scratch Agency podcast. Don't forget, we're a couple weeks out from our meetup in DC, July 31st, one-day mastermind. Still just a few limited tickets available for that. Reach out to Sean or I if you have any questions on that. Most importantly, remember to dig down deep, believe in yourself, in your own future. We'll see you next week. Take care.